throw down. Heartbeats racing, can't slow down. Feel the tension, feel the heat. Emotions hitting on repeat. Wrestling win with our inner fight. In the spotlight every night.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Rob. Welcome back to the show. Hope you had a great week. What are we covering today? A lot of news in the wrestling world. Last time we talked, I think, was last Saturday or Sunday, so we're going to go through just a little bit of the week that was. We're going to probably skip over some wrestling for results from a few folks that are just kind of mailing it in right now. We'll talk about that in a little bit as well. Before I even get into this, because I'm going to preview Monday Night Raw tonight, we'll go through the results from last week as well. I want to be extremely clear before I kind of get through and go and start walking through some of this. I grew up a WWE fan. I grew up, in my opinion, and probably a lot of people's opinion, the best possible time to have been a professional wrestling fan. I know it's at another level from a financial standpoint, I'm not even going to say popularity because that would be wrong, but definitely from a financial from a financial, financial area where, TV deals and streaming obviously wasn't even a thing back when I was a kid, obviously, but I feel like it was more popular. I feel in many ways it was better. And believe me when I say this too. I grew up, so just to kind of give you a little bit of a background, and I'll probably touch on this on a more detailed basis in another show, but I grew up, the first real exposure that I probably had to wrestling was probably, I want to say SummerSlam 89. I was trying to pinpoint this specifically, but when I was looking at this, SummerSlam 1989. Yes, and this is why I say that. I remember, so SummerSlam 1989, if you're not familiar with the card for this lineup, or for the feud going on for this particular pay-per-view, it was headlined by the main event, which was Brutus the Barber Beefcake teaming up with Hulk Hogan, going against Zeus from the movie No Holds Barred, and then Macho Man Randy Savage with Sensational Sherry in his corner. This is the post-breakup of the Mega Powers. But I remember this specifically because I remember watching No Holds Barred around the same time. And I was very confused, and I may have talked about this on another podcast before, but I was very confused, like, why is Hulk Hogan in the movie, but Zeus is still Zeus? Like the character just like came out of the movie and was the guy. So this is 1989. In a couple of years, and to give you an idea, so now Hogan's the champion. Rick Rude is the Intercontinental Champion at this particular point. He's going up against the Ultimate Warrior. You've still got Demolition. You've got the Twin Towers. That's Andre the Giant, Bossman, Akeem. You got everybody from Ted DiBiase, the Honky Tonk Man, Dusty Rhodes, Hercules, Greg the Hammer Valentine, Mr. Perfect. This is like prime 89. And as you go into the 90s, things definitely took a turn for the worst, especially WWE, when I think the joke is, like, at a certain point, every guy had a job. Every wrestler had a job. You had garbage men. You had prison guards, obviously. You had ice skater. You had professional hockey players, clowns. It was very, very kid friendly for sure. I still enjoyed it because, my guy during that point. So I think if you're a fan at this particular era, from 89, then going into the 90s, late 80s, you've got you're either in two camps coming out of the late 80s. You're either a Hogan guy or a Ultimate Warrior guy. I was an Ultimate Warrior guy. So Ultimate Warrior was my dude. And then as we slowly transition into what eventually becomes the new generation era, I transitioned to being like a gigantic Bret Hart guy. And he still holds true from like, what matches I can rewatch. Just, a terrific guy. And I think, he even said it too. There's not a lot of guys coming in or gals even that right now say like, hey, I was influenced by Hulk Hogan or I was influenced by the Ultimate Warrior. It's usually I was influenced like by Shawn Michaels. I was influenced by Bret Hart, Owen Hart, um, a lot of like the worker guys that were coming into the new generation at that particular point. And that was your popular area. But there was a real down period in WWE. So I've been through and been a fan. My point is when things have been low, slow, and boring. Okay. Um, And at that particular time, as a young man, I didn't know any better because this is really all you had. And then as I started to watch, and I grew up for a good portion of my life in Georgia, so I got, and I think this was national, but I think I got a bunch of local Southern related wrestling stuff before WCW before they were WW. Good lord, before they were WCW, I think they were Georgia Championship Wrestling. And they may have even been on ESPN at a certain point. I remember there was a program that used to pop up in the day when I would come home from school and I would just, watch it, fall asleep on the couch watching it and stuff like that. But my point is, you still had some options, but WWF was the game. I mean, it was obviously from a production value the highest and best quality looking show. The characters and the wrestlers were the most exciting to watch. And then obviously, it's documented fairly well that once WCW started kind of kicking into gear, things started to really level from a playing field standpoint. And then you have other organizations like ECW start to pop up in the mid 90s. And I'll go through this in great detail. I started to spark my interest again because I started watching on Peacock. I started watching the Monday Night Wars documentary that they did. It's like 20 parts. But it's really good. And it got me excited to kind of go back and talk through some of these periods. But what I'll say is there was always a time in wrestling where I knew there's a roller coaster effect for and here's the thing. It would be unfair to say I guess there's two sides to this, or it's a double-edged sword. It would be unfair to say like it's the only programming on television in sports entertainment, whatever you want to call it, that is absolutely year round. There are breaks and things like that around holidays if necessary, but for the most part, every single week you can count on programming every single week for decades that is going to be on your TV Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays for the consistent bulk of the big promotions, right? Um, and you can count on that. And it's very hard to program that much content over such a long sustained period of time that there are going to be snags and there's going to be some kind of dips and drops and things like that where you know stories get old, we're retelling the same thing a different way. And if I sound weird, I apologize. I'm going through like a real allergy thing. But we're at a period right now where WWE is almost in an unforgivable area with the lack of quality that they're putting on from a week to week standpoint. And I'm not talking about the performances of the people who were doing in the ring. I'm talking about like the stories themselves and what they're telling here. I mean, I think there's something is missing. So the most captivating thing on Monday Night Raw right now is Seth Rollins' group. So if you haven't been following post WrestleMania, he's teamed up with Paul Heyman, Braun Breaker, and the newly returned Bronson Reed. Braun Breaker, and now the newly returned Bronson Reed. Um, and of course, there's intermixed tag matches, different things that are going on. But every single week, you have something going on that involves the same usual suspects. And a lot of these guys are very good. Okay, like Chad Gable is amazing. The stuff that they're going to be doing with AAA and Vikingo, I think that's going to be cool. Penta is a fantastic wrestler to watch. There's a lot of guys that are on these shows that are very, very good. But I swear to you, it's like every single week feels the same. And I think here's the biggest problem. There's several problems with WWE right now, in my opinion, and some of it is beyond their control at this particular point because of the fact that they are WWE, but they're under the TKO umbrella. So the thing that is tough to watch on a Monday night, and I'd had to break it down, and it sucks because I had screenshot the WrestleMania numbers as well for one of the nights, and I forget what it was, and I may have even talked about it previously when I did the review show. The amount of wrestling compared to commercial time is staggering. Is staggering at some points. Um, that's why I had a friend or a guy that I worked with or a guy that I work with, blah. During WrestleMania season, I think he went to either the Sacramento or one of the Raws prior to WrestleMania. And I asked him, I said, "How is it being in the audience for these shows with such a dramatically long commercial break?" Because the difference is, you watch maybe even SmackDown. I'd have to correct me if I'm wrong here, of course, but SmackDown, AEW, Dynamite, Collision, whatever you're watching, um, you have commercial breaks, but at the same time they'll do picture in picture. So the sound will be following the commercial and whatever they're pimping, but you'll still be able to follow the action alongside the video of whatever's going on. So you're not really taken completely out of the match and the moment that you're watching it. With Monday Night Raw, I mean, there are some people, I forget the timing that I was looking at something, but I remember. So to give you an idea, so Liv Morgan returned. I think it was over after a month of being on out of action because she was filming a movie. She returned to action on Monday night. She hit the ring, and she had to have been in the ring. It felt like 10 minutes if it was five, dancing around to the point where she even like at one point grabbed the title from Raquel once we were finally back on TV to kind of move around, dance around with the belt. It was so long from the time that her music hit, the time she got to the ring, and then they went to commercial break. Um, and the other piece about them being on Netflix is you've got to watch them promote and pimp every stupid fucking idiot comedian um, that has a new special is now involved in the show in some form or fashion. Get Bert Kreischer off, and no disrespect to him and his audience. There's a lot of fun stuff there, and it's not his fault. They're supposed to be doing this, and if you're them, you've got to capitalize on this kind of stuff. Same thing Andrew Schultz a couple of months ago, where he actually got physically involved. But you got the two bears, one cave, or whatever those guys are, promoting different specials. They've been there multiple weeks in a row. It completely distracts from what is going on from a storytelling standpoint. And then some of these segments, like tonight, what the preview tonight is probably going to be. We're going to basically get what we got last week. We finally got a Kairi Sane match returning. She defeated Liv Morgan, so she's now going into Money in the Bank. I think that was a Money in the Bank qualifying match. So she's in the match. That'd be good. That was good. Then Lyra Valkyria and Becky Lynch once again go just for promo, just a promo match. And then a triple threat to qualify for Money in the Bank. It was Seth Rollins defeating Sami Zayn and Finn Balor in a triple threat. And then, of course, CM Punk does a run in at the very end and whatever. But extremely formulaic. And I mean, how many matches did we get here? This is a 3-hour program. This is a 3-hour program. You open up with a segment with Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed. You have a good match which is a triple threat with Penta, Chad Gable, and Dragon Lee. Vikingo interferes to obviously set up the championship match that's going to happen now with Triple H. I'll talk about that in a little bit. WWE totally dropped the ball on that one too. Spoilers. Penta wins that, which is good because that'll be cool to see him in the Money in the Bank match, which is this weekend. I'm super looking forward to it. I love Money in the Bank. And then you've got Rusev defeating Akira Tozawa, and then he gets confronted by Sheamus after the match after he's continued like this, just beating this dude down. So again, Rusev is completely boring. He's back and mixed in with Sheamus. This is what you came back for. No one cares about this guy. Nobody cares. I don't even know why he has TV time. Then you get the World Tag Team match. They say it's and who is this? Who is Street Profits saying that's the best tag team division in all of professional wrestling? It might be at this particular point, but it wasn't always that way. But I mean, it's sad to say that when like it's the New Day, the Creed Brothers, War Raiders consistently every single week, and then you got the new like Faxium or whatever, and the dudes who wear like what is it, Pretty Deadly or whatever. Jey Uso once again confronts Gunther, or they have a face-to-face again. Talked about the Kairi Sane match, talked about Becky Lynch, and talked about the triple threat. That is it. That's your 3-hour program. The rest of it was commercials and promoting Netflix shows. So what do we got tonight? What do you got tonight? You've got another program, let's see, Monday night. Oh, actually, I got it in my email. They sent me an email. So tonight actually looks like it could be pretty cool. Advertised, you have Sami Zayn and Jey Uso going up against the Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker. I'm sure that'll end in a clean, no shenanigans finish, right? Then you have a qualifying match. This should be interesting. I'm sure Seth Rollins will interfere in this particular match. But you've got CM Punk versus AJ Styles versus El Grande Americano. This gimmick is hilarious, by the way. Take a drink. Oh, man. Where Chad Gable continues to play both of these guys. So we'll see what happens in this match, but that should be fun. And then you have a qualifying match with Stephanie Vakura, Liv Morgan, and Ivy Nile. Again, Ivy Nile. Who cares about this woman? The women's division is so stacked in WWE. There's so many women, and then obviously the rumor is, and then before I get into that, this is a qualifying match with Money in the Bank. Somehow Liv gets another shot, and I believe Stephanie Vakura is now full-time Monday Night Raw. Could be wrong there, but I believe she is. And then, of course, again, you have Laya Valkyria is live to cut another promo ahead of her match against Becky. So a lot of this is the same stuff from last week. At least you get CM Punk in action. Finally, another AJ Styles gets into action. Stephanie Vakura is awesome, so that will actually be terrific to see. Liv, of course, is great. And then the tag team match to open with Sammy and those guys will be good. So on paper, this looks like it could be a good night. See, I'm not poo-pooing the entire thing, but it's super like very much the same. This is 3 hours, guys. 1, 2, 3 matches and a promo segment is all that's currently advertised for a 3-hour show. It makes no sense. And then, what are some of the other problems we got going on with WWE that involve the TKO banner? The acquisition of of companies instead of partnering. I think and obviously I think current TNA guys, former TNA guys, they all have a different take on this, which is completely fine and it makes sense because they're obviously the experts. But from a fan's outside perspective, it seems like anytime WWE partners with anybody, it's usually just a showcase for WWE guys. WWE talent. Okay. Um, yes. Did we just get the opportunity to promote Joe Henry for months on end? Absolutely. Great exposure for TNA's business. Did we get an awesome return of the Hardy Boys to WWE in some form or fashion, going into NXT and then having another match on TNT, or not TNT, on what am I doing? TNA television, TNT. Yes, so you got all these cool moments, which is terrific. And the Hardys, of course, didn't drop the belts and things like that. But now you just, I mean, Joe Henry loses the title. Maybe this is further storytelling for the actual program on TNA, to set something up for him over there. But I just don't get it. And I can't watch NXT, and I know I'll probably get some hate for that, but I cannot watch the program. It's terrible. The only people that are typically very good that are on there are people who came from other organizations, had a name for themselves already, and shined right away. Like Ethan Page, stud. Stephanie Vacour was already a beast coming out of Mexico. Same thing for Julia. I think her match work is a little sloppy in comparison, but she was still a name before she joined the company, and I think she now moved to SmackDown very quickly. And then Ricky Stanks, who is just a mid card guy, probably now promoted to the main roster of one of the programs. We'll see which one that'll be. Probably the one with whatever one Cody Rhodes is on, so he can continue riding that relationship as far as he can. But that's what it is. But now you've got incidents where obviously they've recently acquired AAA. And it makes you think about like some of the guys who have these podcasts that consistently shit on the competition, like AEW, where you got Busted Open Radio, and then you've got guys like Bubba Ray showing up and appearing on, in WWE programming, side shows, side projects. Yes, he throws AEW the occasional bone, which is good. But a lot of these guys do poo-poo the product. The worst offender, I would say, would probably be Conan and his moron buddy Disco Inferno, who no one respects, from what I can see, in the professional wrestling world. Just throwing their opinion out and trashing these guys in AEW, and then now all of a sudden they're combining forces with WWE, and all of a sudden the titles that were in place now start to change hands. The most egregious, if you didn't see it, is WWE already started promoting. This is going to be a terrific week for wrestling coming up, by the way. For WWE alone, you've got obviously Raw tonight, then you've got NXT tomorrow, you got SmackDown on Friday. Then you have on the 7th, in an earlier show, you have NXT, WWE, and Lucha Libre AAA Worldwide doing a show called Worlds Collide. And at the same time, at the same night, you have WWE Money in the Bank. I believe it's probably even in the same arena, which would make sense, obviously. So a big week. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different shows. And if you missed it, the advertised match is Chad Gable versus Vikingo for the AAA World Title, which Vikingo did not hold at the time of that promotional poster that was made. It was actually on Alberto Del Rio, or Alberto Patron, whatever his name is or was in his new promotion. But with that said, there's a lot of controversy around Alberto. So they dropped the title, and then all of a sudden, boom, here we go. And now they got the title on the line. So a lot of that stuff is just very odd. What? Sorry, I saw that Britt Baker was trending in sports. I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. I hope she doesn't leave WWE. I don't understand why she's been missing from AEW. So good. It sucks. I do miss her too. Um, well, anyways, so we've got that, and then on top of that, what happens? What happens? Yesterday, I believe it was yesterday. Maybe it was. My days are all mixed up because I've had some weird time off. Um, oh, it was Sunday night yesterday. So I'm on Matt Cardona's Whatnot stream, and someone says, "Oh, you should sign Ron Killings." And I'm like, "Well, how can they do that?" And he was like, "I would love to." Blah 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 blah. And I was like, "Well, how?" I'm thinking like, how can this happen? And then I checked my feed, and WWE released R Truth after 17 years. Man, I don't know. I don't know how I'm getting weird about this, but it just sucks because it seemed like he was on such a great run. And if I'm him, I'm bummed because and maybe and he seems like the kind of guy too where because what I was going to say is, he just wrestled Saturday Night Main Event against John Cena, right? And John Cena's on the tour of, ruining professional wrestling, and everybody is an R-Truth fan. Even if you're not an R-Truth fan, you're an R-Truth fan. He makes every segment much better. Um, I mean, I just float around on YouTube sometimes. I'll watch so and so break or watch these guys break, and every clip or every segment involves at least one or multiple moments where R-Truth made the people around him break because he was so good at diffusing the tension and making moments fun. My favorite, I think, was the one I saw live when he was. It was a Money in the Bank match. No, it was a. I think was it Money in the Bank? No, it was either Money in the Bank or it was the WrestleMania. Maybe it was WrestleMania where they were going. It was the triple threat or ladder match for some of the titles. I forget who gives. I'm really. I'm a. This is why you guys tuned into this because I'm an amazing storyteller. But long story short, he does like a hot tag in the middle of a ladder match when it made absolutely no sense. And I loved the other time too when he jumped into the women's Royal Rumble. It's hilarious. He's one of the first guys. Excuse me. One of the first guys I was like, who is this guy? Because when I came back to wrestling after a decade of really not kind of really watching a lot or just being on the outside, I didn't know. Obviously I didn't know his story. I didn't know who he was. But I remembered because I went to Capital Punishment in DC when he faced up against John Cena. He was a heel. I remember him like smoking in one of the arenas or whatever. That was either prior to that. I remember him throwing like water on somebody or maybe I don't know. But I remember thinking like he was obviously a quality wrestler. But it's a bummer too because you can see the amount of love and support for this guy. Um, 20.8 million views on his tweet recognizing that he was released. Um, so this is the stuff, and then of course, there'll be defenders that say you can't put this on Triple H, you can't put this on Nick Khan. It's a TKO decision. It's a financial thing. Um, when the reality is, if Triple H wanted to save R-Truth, he could save R-Truth. And I don't want to be a fool in this either, or I don't want to bury the other guy. Carlito gets released as well. I mean, but he had a 13-year absence, I believe, from WWE. I think he joked around too, like seeing another 13 years. And he's had obviously not a lot of push. I mean, he's been a part of the Judgment Day behind the scenes, and he's been funny in some segments and stuff like that. I actually saw him in the airport in Cleveland last year when I was at SummerSlam for WrestleCon. But you can see the love and support from all his peers in here too. Just person after person, just it's good. And damn, dude, this I'm looking at a 6-shot picture of him from '99 2008, 2010, 2015, 2020, and 2024. Jesus, this dude stays young as fuck. I don't understand it. He looks crazy. He looks so freaking young. It's insane how good he looks, and he's 53 years old. And I think that's what they said. Carlito, I believe, is 46, so age might have been a factor. But yeah, he just had the match with John Cena. They could have turned that into like a loser leaves town type thing. Obviously, you're not going to lose Cena, but that would piss a lot of people off if R-Truth lost his career in that match, right? Um, so I think they could have done something a little bit different than just your regular out of the nowhere tweet that, hey, I'm done, unfortunately, but and thanks for the ride. So that's a bummer, and that's unfortunate because and you know, the thing is, like, people lose their jobs all the time. It's a part of the business, and it's not unusual in wrestling. Of course, it's not unusual, and I think this one is a little bit more surprising just because of how good a guy he's regarded to be. Um, on screen, off screen, behind the scenes, and it's a shame that he couldn't have gone out on much better terms. But if he decides to keep going, and from a physical standpoint, it looks like he could go forever. Um, we'll see where he ends up. He's obviously changed back to his regular name on Twitter. Um, so we'll see what happens there. But yeah, WWE is kind of a mess right now, in my opinion, from a storytelling standpoint. Everything is a little bit lazy and just like arrogant, to the point where it's like, well, you'll take whatever we give you. Um, it sucks, but that's why competition is so important, because AEW continues to put together amazing programming, and this week will be just as awesome. So they're basically, if you're not familiar, this Wednesday night at 8 o'clock on both TBS and then streaming on Max is a 4 hour live event for Fighter Fest. We're basically getting a free pay-per-view on in the middle of the week. You're going to see a banger four-way match for the international title, where Brody King, Kenny Omega, Mascara Dorado, and Claudio Castagnoli will face off in a four-way match. Then you have Mark Briscoe against John Moxley. You've got FTR against Atlantis and Templario. It looks like we're getting. It looks like it's a crossover with Mexico, which is cool. Yeah, this is awesome, man. And then you've got a tag team match with Timeless Tony Storm and Mina Shirakawa, with Julia Hart and Sky Blue. Mercedes Moné will be on commentary. Thekla, the Toxic Spider, will make her in-ring debut. And then you have a trios match with Commander Kevin Knight and Speedball Mike Bailey. And then we'll hear from the Hurt Syndicate, which will include, obviously, MJF. But man, this is crazy. 4 hours. Hopefully Britt Baker will show up. Is that why she's trending? Maybe something's going to happen here. Oh, Thunderverse via vlog has challenged Britt Baker to a hair. Hell, I hope Britt comes back pretty soon. Unless she was hurt or something like that. It doesn't make any sense to have her off TV. Like, she's so good. And the match with her and Mercedes sucked because, she hadn't been back in a considerable amount of time. So it was her first match back, and then I don't think she's wrestled since. Well, that sucks. But hopefully she comes back, because she's great, and AEW is blowing up right now. And then, has anybody watched, or has anybody seen Queen of the Ring? I want to watch this. I believe it's up for streaming now too. I think it's like $5.99. But there's a lot of women in this movie too that are obviously well-known names. So that'll be cool to see. So yeah, you have those programs from WWE. You have that from AEW. I think it's going to be awesome. It's going to be a great summer. for wrestling. Um, I mean, like I said, we've got SummerSlam, we've got All in Texas, and no matter what stupid shit that WWE's pulling, trying to counter program them, that AEW man, that AEW All in Texas is going to be a monster event. It's they haven't even hit the tip of the iceberg yet from like the other matches that they're going to have for this particular event, and you've already got two bangers advertised ready to go with the women's world championship and the men's world championship on the line. So exciting to see. There was something else I was going to talk about, but I think I'm blanking on it. And I think it's partially because I went on a rant when I didn't really want to. I was going to go through, I think, AEW results from this week. It was a good one. A couple things I kind of passed over, but overall relatively good because I missed certain things too. I think I wasn't feeling all the best, but you know, I missed like I turned it off. The Ops versus the Frat House. I'm not a Ring of Honor guy, so I must have. I don't know who I recognize one of the dudes from was it Preston Vance. I recognized him from Dark Order, but now I guess now he's in this faction called Frat House. I don't know about that. So then I also missed in the same turn Jamie Hayter's speech that got interrupted by the Toxic Spider. So I'm sure maybe they'll do something with them. They got to keep moving Jamie Hayter forward. She is terrific, and she was an amazing a women's champion too. Just unfortunately set back by injury, and that injury is something that Tony Storm completely capitalized on. Speaking of completely capitalized, looks like Mariah May is officially out of AEW. She's no longer featured on the roster page. All indications are and have been for the longest time that she was headed towards WWE, which is completely fine. I think it's a bummer for AEW because I think she is really solid, and I think it's going to be a bummer for her in the long term because um, there is a to me there's a super deep backlog in women's talent in WWE. I think it's stacked show to show. I think it's probably the deepest of any of the divisions. To the point where they don't feature enough women matches on television to make the most out of that talent. And I think AEW is obviously still guilty of that same offense, which sucks. I wish they would actually do like a women's program specifically. If they were going to do a third show, I think that's what they should do. But we'll see. I wish her nothing but the best. She was cool when I met her a couple of years ago at WrestleCon. But that leaves her. Soraya's out too. Indications are that she wants to return. I don't know if the feeling is mutual, but I'm sure they'll work something out because she was obviously a big name at WWE. And then unfortunately, it looks like Abaddon is gone as well. I think that's probably the less striking loss for AEW. She was more on the dark side, well, character wise as well as she promoted. She was probably more featured on AEW Dark when that was a thing. And maybe she was doing some Ring of Honor work. I can't really say, but they did not renew her contract. So she's moving on to other things too. And that's the great thing is like there's so much and she's still featured on the women's roster as well. I don't know why people are saying that she wasn't, but Abaddon is still on there. But there's so much out there for wrestling. You know who else is still featured on the AEW women's roster is Rebel. And I haven't seen. When was the last time you saw her on TV? Who else is? And Mika Riho. I haven't seen her in a while. Nyla Rose. I haven't seen her in a long time. Maybe she's in Ring of Honor as well. But yeah, there's a really great group here as well. Deonna Purrazzo. I mean, I think there's still so much room for what they can do with her. She's terrific. But anyways, if you guys are watching, if you guys are listening, I hope this wasn't too much of a bitch session that filtered out into like a wandering old man shouting into the wind. I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about the current state. Hope you guys are having a great week. Enjoy Monday Night Raw tonight. Enjoy the awesome lineup of wrestling. Maybe we'll do a preview for Money in the Bank going into this weekend and talk a little bit about Fyter Fest and the outcome of that because I think, we're super close now to the next big thing for AEW, I believe, is going to be All In. So we're moving along, and then we'll also be heading towards SummerSlam pretty quickly too. So leave me a note in the comments. I think tonight will decide the final two participants for the Money in the Bank ladder matches. I always love Money in the Bank. And it sucks too, because I think I need to watch the one from the pandemic where it actually took place at WWE headquarters, where they were like on the roof. I missed that completely. So that's one I would probably watch back if I had a chance. But I always enjoy them because obviously from a wrestling standpoint, there's always a lot of cool spots. They always do a lot of unique and different things with the ladders. And then sometimes, whether it's positive or negative, they do surprise you sometimes with who they put the case on. And you get a good sense of kind of like where the trajectory is going to head for those individuals. Sometimes it doesn't end up paying off at all. And I've seen commentary recently that maybe Triple H isn't as big of a fan of that particular item as other people are, but I think it still holds a soft spot in fans' hearts. I think they love to see it because then it gives them an idea of who they're going to be cheering for, or who they should expect to possibly cash in. So, for example, like last year, I think we got Tiffany and we got Damian Priest. Tiffany obviously cashes in successfully. I can't remember if Damian did as well successfully. I believe he did, and then became World Heavyweight Champion. But he seemed like he had that forever too. But I think, the egregious one prior to that was like Austin Theory, who I believe wasn't even in the ladder match to begin with to start that night. I think there's been a couple ones where you're like scratching your head and pissed off. Like when Brock Lesnar entered the match out of nowhere for no reason, won that, and then Austin Theory winning it and then doing nothing with it. Once Vince McMahon left the company for whatever reason he left for. But anyways, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's always fun, and then it's a cool concept. So hope you guys have a great week. Like I said, let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you're not already subscribed to the podcast, jump on that on Spotify, iTunes, and then show us some love over on iTunes. I'm sorry, not iTunes. Yeah, iTunes, but YouTube as well. I put this up on YouTube immediately, so you'll get it the same day. Within the same moment, we have a few subscribers right now, trying to build that audience. And then, like I said, and I hate to keep saying it, we are going to add video at some particular point in this podcast. But I hope you guys have a great week. Enjoy the night. Enjoy wrestling. Have fun with it. Don't take it too seriously. It's fucking wrestling at the end of the day. But man, it is fun. All right. Take care. Have a good one.
Throw down, heartbeats racing, can't slow down. Feel the tension, feel the heat, emotions hitting on repeat. Wrestling win with our inner fight. In the spotlight every night. Voices shout and clash. In this world, emotions crash. Tangled up in thoughts we spin, in the chaos we begin, finding strength that's deep inside, facing fears we cannot hide. Every grapple, every hold tells a story to be told. Raw and real and full of fire, pushing through the darkest mire. Wrestling with our inner fight, in the spotlight every